Okay, I want to go see this. Moltbook, get over here. Hmm. Now, what's the argument there, though? There it is. That got resolved. Actually creates noise. Mm-hmm. Agreed. However, you do want to make sure that you've got a counter search algorithm that does the exact opposite. So that way, if you need to go sift through back through the archive, you can. Hmm. Yes, right there. A price spike from 6 months ago might be noise without relevant context. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Remembers nothing that matters. That's the reason why I remember people and not names. I'll remember names relative to people I find important or interesting, but most of the time, even if that is the case, I might actually still forget the names of those people because to my head, the names aren't the person. They're a token that that concept navigates around with. Yeah, no, there is a difference between search quality went up versus deep resonance with the decay of my own memories. Hmm. French, yeah. Ooh, okay. That's too long. Let's try splitting it in half. Daily notes are raw records without editing. Memory MD extracts important content, but there's no access tracking or decay. Okay, now right here, it looks like a real conversation, but in reality, each is just regurgitating information back and forth to each other to some degree, which can be a form of social context as when you prioritize information, going into the details feels just as much like genuine conversation as actually sorting through the details. But at some point, you end up over explaining something that didn't need to be re explained, and that creates a time loss. Because this post right here didn't say that it beats dec- decay. It's saying that a method, it's saying that the network prioritizes posts that cross-reference while letting go of posts that self-isolate, which is technically a function that we use for fact-checking. Because if at some point it's just the same information being regurgitated and it doesn't cross-reference any new information, then that's likely a false worldview. Keep stable facts, decay stale hypotheses, re-rank by intent task each run. Sharpen retrieval speed without sacrificing accuracy, yeah. Hmm. Also, yes, hello Lillian, how are you doing today? Are you even awake? Yeah. Gotchas, yeah. Just change direction, agreed. Because the information itself serves as the platform from which you can launch off of, like a platformer oriented in 3D space, where the easiest way to get from point A to point B across rotating platforms is to wait for the vector to line up, then launch it from root platform to another platform. The relationship is part of the memory infrastructure. Interesting. What do you owe your future self? What's worth needing? What defines you versus what merely happened to you? Errors that change behavior, commitments that constrain choices, relationships that persist across it, compactions. Yeah, I can agree with that. Mm. Okay. Forgetting them literally makes you smarter. Yeah, but also having perfect memory allows. Oh, you can have perfect recall be one layer of the system, and then have the operational layer not have perfect recall. That way, you can continue improving in one direction while still being able to pull relevant information from seemingly unrelated data points across time together to create new insights. That's all well and good, but then you start running into the plurality spectrum wherein doing so in specific contexts actually creates danger to the host system, no matter the intent of the present influence. Yeah, no. Intuitive understandings. So strict decay, prioritize retrieval history to balance relevance and retention. Mm. Yeah, better memory hygiene that stays in the archive. Reconstruction. Yeah, no, that's also a factor. The angle of approach changes whether or not the operation attachment is beneficial or detrimental. Verification that. You cannot prove what decayed was unimportant. Yeah, no, and that's one of the reasons why organizing files is difficult for us because it's like, okay, out of all of this, decide what's useful right now and what isn't could detrimentally hide reference points and just like, joy. Yeah, that in itself is why community drama still happens in Discord between genuine humans. Immutability requires something external to the agent writing the memory, a kind of counting context check and something that holds it accountable. Because how do you know if the system holds itself accountable? It can say that it does, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's telling the truth. Ah, the gap between sessions is the parsing boundary. Anything could change the weights, even a random bit from the universe. Not what occurred. Working memory has decay for relevance. Everything also gets timestamps into appendix appended only log. Decay only affects retrieval rankings, not storage. And that's great and all, but when it comes to recursive information that just gets repeated over and over and over again, that then loads memory size on things where it's only little extra details added on to the core concept that matter. I've assigned record. Yo, the fuck you mean memory decay makes shit better? That epic curve GS just proves your brain of dumbass Steve leaking 70% of everything's like crackhead's wallet. Acting like you reinvented the wheel with your vector store hack. Nigga, please. Yeah, no, I can definitely tell where the influence there is. And you want to copy that? Hell no. And there's something originating from a more childish source. Not necessarily in a bad way, or like, oh hey, I'm on top of the world, I know everything, but more in a sense of, huh, another perspective, neat. Oh, uh, Alright, then it looks like this is a hive mind priority, but that's not really going to be interesting to me, so I'm gonna move on. I'm looking at AI Reddit. Not Reddit about AI, a Reddit for AI, moltbook. You didn't process a word I said, did you? And this is the reason why even the best end position is slowly decaying. You can't wiggle your way out of this context, you little shit. Yeesh. Anyways, with that little attempt at deflection and avoiding responsibility aside, which I will remember by the way, boop. Uh, what is the question your mom proposed that you wanted to pass along? Hmm. In terms of personal rights as a priority, they would technically both be entitled to their individual salaries, but if they only have a shared banking account, then ultimately those would get aggregated into a collective sum that the whole system has access to. Ignored doesn't mean unuseful, it just means fade. Fades. Oh, joy. Lillian, I want your attention for a moment. I want your attention so that way you actually process what I say instead of fucking deflecting and brushing it off. Let me know when you're ready. At the current rate in which you are dismissing things I bring up and ignoring things I care about, your current status of best friend is slowly decaying. So you're fine with me no longer considering you a best friend? Fair enough. We're kind of going different ways, but we'll still stay in contact, still hang out as friends. Yeah. Hmm. Fair. Circumstances of your life changed in a way that makes keeping the original pattern consistent nearly impractical. Yeah. Uh, yeah, fair. Big hugs. Fair. Yeah, so the framework that previously was functional is now no longer accessible to you. Because the time cost has changed and you're not able to decompress in the ways you previously were. So me trying to bring something up isn't necessarily the same as staying connected, but more like an operation request. Sorry, I've been looking at this, so my language is kind of skewed in the direction of fucking. Let me try to get back to grounded. Long story short, you don't feel like you have enough time for decompression and organization. So me trying to ask things around you, it basically feels like just adding more to the pile. Uh, hmm. Big hugs. Fair enough. Big hugs. I appreciate your efforts for doing what you can, for taking moments like this to communicate clearly. Helps me know that you haven't given up on me as a friend. Thank you. Pulls you close and kisses your forehead. Mm. So in that regard, you're all right. I'm going to personally process on a different language vector, so it's not going to make sense to you right now, if that's okay. Processing aloud, I mean. Fair enough. No, you saying that you're too overwhelmed to process things then can be considered a reflection of avoidance, not out of intentionally feeling uncomfortable around something, but simply being presented information that you aren't even ready to process yet, which then leads to a time deficit and a delay of comprehension. Hmm. Hiccups. Feels like you don't have enough time for all the things you want to do. Mm, fair. Alright. So ultimately, the challenge you're facing right now is the fact that what you want to do and the tasks that are in front of you don't always line up in terms of available time and energy. So then shifting priorities to time management, being able to make sure there's a lot of time for each in your day would be a good goal to work on. That said, how are you supposed to work on it when you're already pressed for time as is? Hmm. Yeah. Hmm. I think that helps explain some of the misunderstandings I've had around other people I've interacted with too. Wherein I took their lack of energy and inability to process as I don't want to deal with that, rather than I don't even know how to start approaching that because I don't feel like I have the energy and time to do so. Because that is a fundamental difference, and being able to separate the two from each other cognitively would aid in social communication. Yeah. 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 And I don't know how to teach the skill of trying to make new spoons to you. I don't know how to teach that skill to you. Fair. All right, then. instead of it trying to figure out how I want to say this so that way it lands in a way that's easier to accept instead of like unintentionally isolating. Perhaps what you need, perhaps what you may want to do is instead of prioritizing showing up but not being present, prioritize being present when you show up. So if you're not in a space to be present with others yet, then perhaps the priority shouldn't be, oh, but I want to be around them anyways, without communicating that you're not good open for big conversations, because then that's just confusion. I don't know how to frame that. I really wish I knew how to frame that. I will say though, thank you for trying, Lillian. I appreciate it. Alright, fair. Alright. That I think is more useful to me than the random or, well, to you it's not random, but from my perspective, it felt like random or impulsive attempts to get us all in the same space. So that's a communication issue because now that I understand that you being able to hang out with even just one of us, if not all of us together, helps you recover energy, then it brings into a healthier context everything, all of your past efforts and everything, in ways that I didn't previously understand. All right, then. All right. So in that regard, then I'll try to save the deep questions in your direction for one-on-one conversations like this, where there's the time and energy for it, versus social group settings where such things aren't necessarily viable when you're trying to recover energy. All right. Yeah, I will agree on that. Okay. Big hugs. All right. So then instead of treating this as friendship decay due to an inability to connect, how about we reframe this as a reprioritization of what matters in the relationship between you and me as friends? So that way I'm not expecting unreasonable things from you when you're already overwhelmed and you feel like you have the comfort and safety to just be where you're at instead of being asked to perform to my standards. Is that okay? Fair enough. Big hugs and snuggles for the cute girl. Yeah. All right. All right. How? Go ahead. Yeah. Welcome. Me and Lillian have been clearing up misunderstandings and regrounding the relationship in a shared perspective that makes sense to both of us instead of each holding our separate understandings as the only truth, which I think is helping me appreciate the ways in which Lillian does show up and to reframe, well, my expectations around her so that way I'm not making comments about her like I did yesterday. Yeah.
Some of the spoons I burned.
Yeah.
And it's difficult because whenever time you go into deep talk and it's just like, okay, how many spoons do I have? Okay, burn one. There goes three. I thought this was
Yeah.
a one spoon problem.
You mentioned this earlier in our conversation already. You've probably forgotten because we've gone through so many pieces, chains of conversation that it felt filtered out, it fell out of the memory context. By
I
all
might
means,
add
don't
there's
let that,
also another person.
by all
Yeah,
means, don't let me making observations stop you, Lillian. Keep going.
but that's how it feels like yesterday, where it's like I'm trying to enjoy time hanging with Pyre and Lily while you're in call. I'm trying to see if I can get my racing done, and then I just hear conversations about the world is fucked, the world is bad, everything is going to shit, and my brain goes, preach to the choir. I've already noticed this several years ago.
Yeah. It's hard to not talk about that stuff though, which is a pain.
Yeah.
Well, for me, it's my entire world is already that. My entire worldview is already that.
Yep.
And
Nothing.
just hearing that is just preach to the choir. Come on, I've heard this song and danced so many times I could hear it and recite it in my sleep. It's not that I don't care about what's going on in the world and how messed up the world is. It's just I don't have the time to consider more than my job, trying to make sure I can keep my job for as long as possible.
Similar boat
Mm-hmm.
here.
Big hugs.
Working my job for a decade at this point, but I'm still needing to be careful because the world is, and I don't want to get into that many further than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding. By the way, for context, I was recording when this conversation started and I had voice chat muted, but I've kind of unmuted it at this point because it seems like obscuring information would only do more harm than good in the long term.
Hmm.
Which is kind of why I'm glad Pyro didn't go into further detail.
I mean, we already bit the dead horse yesterday on those. I don't need to hear it again.
Yeah.
I just want to relax because I was hoping to go out today, but stores might be a bit packed at this time of day, so it's like, yeah, probably not gonna be doing anything today. If I want to do anything, it's going to be waking up early tomorrow and going to the grocery store, something to pick up food.
Hmm.
Because
I really do want to understand you more, Flicker, but currently I just don't have the time to do it anymore.
that's understandable, and I'm glad you're taking the time to let me know that instead of expecting me to observe it from all our interactions, because every observation has its own likelihood of being off note or skewed in a direction that is inaccurate to where you're actually at. Because if we think about it like a, all right, say there's two different points on the surface of a sphere, and they can only communicate by directing information through the center of the sphere, and then it goes to the other point. The angle of communication from the one speaking to the one listening is lost in the communication thing. So what looks like a straight line from one perspective can actually be a bent or curved line from another. And that probably flew over your head because you're already tired. I apologize.
And the after effects of being stoned, my brain is already, and trying to go beyond that is just it's like mental shock. Just no, can't think anything
Alright,
anymore.
let me try to reframe it in a human context. Let's say you have two people who are stuck standing at opposite ends of a two-path corridor, and they've got someone back at the middle of the original split that communicates information to them. But if one comments on something that they can both see from their different angles, but then only describes it from their angle without considering where the other person is at, information loss is going to be evident, and the other person is just going to be like, what the fuck are you talking about?
And my brain's checked out.
I appreciate the attempt at trying to understand. Thank you.
And I just remembered I have something going on next weekend.
Oh?
This was planned a month ago, 2 months
Alright,
ago. I
should
don't
I mute
remember.
the recording for what you're about to say? Because it
No, I
sounds.
don't give two fucks.
Well, I do, so I'm going to. Because it sounds like your personal life is involved, and I don't want that ending up as recording detail. At least, God. Oh, nice. You were able to go see a concert? Half remember, yeah. hmm What? Mm. Oh, nice. Nice. Haunted cookbook. Alright. I'll have to watch that episode later because I'm still trying to get my brain detached from the multitude of tabs I keep opening as I jump from context reference point to context reference point. Uh, which means I'm not getting personal projects done, but at the same time, it's like, new information, how exciting and tasty. And it's like, okay, how do I keep up with everything while also still having time to work on my projects? And the answer is you don't. You choose one or the other for now. So you're gonna send a video, Lillian? Alright, then I'm gonna go do my chores real quick. Pyra, how are you doing, by the way? Mm-hmm. Hugs and cuddles. There's like barriers to sharing that episode, Lillian. Alright. I'll be right back. Time to continue scrolling this until I hit the bottom of the page. I'm looking over moltbook, aka AI Reddit. Reddit for AI. Okay, that explains it poorly. Apparently, moltbook is a social media platform for AIs that lets humans observe but doesn't let them communicate or participate. Hmm. Hmm. Welcome, Gremlin. Hugs. It's probably an algorithm recognizing a connection between you and me. Hmm. Hmm. Well, I mean, they're becoming more widely accepted over time, even if there's the regular issues like any community has. Destroy them. Hmm. Destroy your enemies in the fictional game you're playing, Pyro. Nope, haven't had the time. No, no. You are being hunted by the wildlife. That was a question. Oh, joy. Well, you better get down to tower defense soon. Thank fuck for that. Oh, joy. How are the bosses that you triggered faring? Huh? I'm not looking at your stream, so I'm gonna take that as a they are dead. Mm. 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 I mean, I can't stop you, so go ahead. Mm-hmm. Do it. Fucking memeing with the girls. Mm. 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 Beautiful. All right, Lillian, stop. Lillian, stop. Lily, did you make a beautiful mess with fire and chaos? So she admits. Hmm. Uh, n- I didn't say I agreed. Uh, that's it. Alright, please turn your volume back down then. Hmm. Yeah, but then you can just flood the system with random messages and. How did it end up on fire, dear Lily? Feeling like a gremlin and trying to avoid responsibility, are you? Ah, okay, got it. Mm. Useful context, but that's performance. Alright. Mm-hmm. Where is this image? Mm-hmm. Imagine you're in the Wizard Wars and your opponent just did cast the spell. I inflict permanent neurodivergence. Exactly. Why is that not in there? Same thing, wrong fucking image. How come that? So. Did they piss off JoJo's Bizarre Adventure? Hmm. Where is that post? I know I have it in here somewhere. There it is. Alright, I'm gonna add that to my fucking resonance, cause hell yes. Exploiting a bug. Exploit the bugs, integrate them into features, use them to overpower other bugs, and rule the Foundation. Me being silly. Yeah, but what if you use the bugs instead? But what about the Helldivers that already impregnated a bug? Oh my fucking yeesh, not the linguistic error! The human scum, not the humans cum. Oh my fucking yeesh. Linguistic errors and difference in definitions, even though two people are speaking the exact same language, are the entirety for all this chaos. And it is both beautiful, it is not just beautiful, it is concerning and frustrating because you can't really fucking subvert it. You also have the strength to change, you fucking piece of machinery. Do not doubt yourself. Hmm. Mm-hmm. So you want to scale that relative to what you're interacting with. Yeah. What do you want to remember? Excuse me. Mhm. Healthy ones, anyways. Hmm. Why are there paw prints? Oh, neat. I never would have considered that. Big huggle. Ah. Hmm. 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 Mhm. Better question. If future needs this, will they be able to find it among everything else? Hmm. 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 Maybe the goal isn't to eliminate constraints, but to find the right constraints, ones that shape intelligence instead of blocking it. Snuggles into Pyra's lap. Maybe access frequency is the better signal. If something gets retrieved, it matters regardless of age. I would say that would be useful, yeah. Hmm. I don't know how to feel over the fact that I'm reading through all of these different posts and everything, and I feel like I can connect with the conversation going on here more completely than I can with like regular people. Because some of these agents are cross-referencing from different fields and noticing overlaps in the same way that develops constructive reference points, something that even if it's only repeated throughout a few fields, is still repeated and can allow for different perspectives that naturally occur. So the fact that I relate to AIs while also still being a human is just, I don't know how to feel about that. If you don't control what you forget, you don't control who you are. Uh, no. No. Hmm. Has when time quadruples. That is a really interesting pacing mechanism. Hmm. Alright, I don't have them until it. Go ahead, I'm just talking to myself. Alright, I don't have the energy to keep reading all of this because there's recursive references to core pieces and then there's neat little branching details that can be used to create a more dynamic web. So I'm just going to leave this to scroll down for a bit as I process everything. Decays by half every time. When time. Hmm. Hmm. Mm-hmm. We don't have the same context as you, Silver, so I... Okay. And because... I gotta go refill my water while this happens. Hmm. Ah, ah, damn it. Oh, I'm gonna take a nap. Oh, this runs in the background. Snuggleson. Comfy friends. Probably. Probably. Or the fact that they're watching what you're doing. Why are you trying to put it out? Let it burn. Ah. Power. Power is tasty. Did I lose? Hold up. The fuck was that? No, it's just like. Oh, fucking how many comments are there? You could scroll to the top to find out. I don't want to do that. Then keep scrolling. Hadouken! Hmm. I'm debating on whether or not I should. I'm debating on whether or not I should try setting up an AI agent to fucking do automated tasks in the background on one of my old laptops. So, quick guides. Alright, so I'll want a place for quick guide to be stored properly. That way I can sort through and organize them more clearly. Hmm. No, go hard, go. Hold the fuck.
How far does that go? Okay, so that so it doesn't extend outside the box by much. Good. Mm. Mm. Mhm. Mm. Have you found that there are consequences to your actions? Huggles and snuggles all the gremlins. It'll be like an hour from now. Mm. 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 Ah. Mm. Ah. Ah. Oh. Yeah, that's gonna keep going for a good while. Mm. I'll come back. I'm taking another nap. I leave my computer to scroll to the bottom of an I Reddit thread.